Pharisees and several teachers of the law of Moses from Jerusalem came and gathered around Jesus. And they noticed that some of his disciples ate without first washing their hands. The Pharisees had many other Jewish people with them obey the teachings of their ancestors. They always wash their hands in the proper way before eating. None of them will eat anything they buy in the market until it is washed. They also follow a lot of other teachings, such as washing cups, pitchers, and bowls. Now the Pharisees and the teachers asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples obey what our ancestors taught us to do? Why do they eat without washing their hands?" And Jesus replied, "You are nothing but show-offs. The prophet Isaiah was right when he wrote that God had said, 'All of you praise me with your words, but you never really think about me. It is useless for you to worship me when you teach the rules made by humans. You disobey God's commands in order to obey what humans have taught." Jesus called the crowd together again and said, "Pay attention and try to understand what I mean. The food that you put in your mouth doesn't make you unclean and unfit for worship of God. The bad words that come out of your mouth are what make you unclean. Out of your heart come evil thoughts, vulgar deeds, stealing, murder, unfaithfulness in marriage, greed, meanness, deceit, indecency, envy, insults, pride, and foolishness. All of these come from your heart, and they are what make you unfit to worship God." The Gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. I invite you to be seated. Well, normally I start my sermons out with a story that hopefully connects to at least some of the Gospel reading for the day. And so I thought I'd do that again today. So there's two priests that go to heaven. Now, those were in the days when computers were brand new, and heaven was just getting used to having computers up there. Well, St. Peter greets them and welcomes them, but he said to the two priests, "We have a little problem. The computers are down for 2 days, and we can't let you in until they're repaired. So you've got 2 days to do anything you want to do, and we won't be able to track you, so you can do whatever you want." Priest one said, "Oh, well, I have longed to be like an eagle and to soar and to be able to see over God's creation." And St. Peter says, "Okay, boom," and off it goes. The second priest says, "So you won't be able to track us for 2 days?" That's right, St. Peter says, "You can go anywhere, do anything, and we won't be able to track you or hear you or see you." The second priest said, "Okay, well, I've always wanted to be a stud." So St. Peter says, "Okay," and poof, he's gone. Well, 2 days later, God comes and informs St. Peter that the computers are fixed and they can bring back the two priests and so that they can enter heaven. St. Peter reports back to God and said, "Well, that was no problem. We found the first priest. He was flying over the Rocky Mountains and we brought him back." "Well, what about the second?" God asked. "Well, we're having a little problem there in locating him. You know, he wanted to be a stud, you see, so we sent him out to Alaska and placed him on a snow tire." Be careful what you ask for. Well, the Pharisees and the teachers were the studs in Jesus' time. They were the ones that people came to, looked up to, were afraid of, were careful with, and tried to avoid, I guess, whenever they could. But they were important in Jesus' day. And they kept the law. Now, the law, of course, was God's 10 Commandments. But out of those 10 Commandments, we as human beings needed to have little understanding. And so he made 639 rules out of the Ten Commandments. And the Pharisees wanted us to follow each and every one of them, especially those in today's reading about purity. Now, first of all, we know it's good to wash our hands before we eat. It's good to wash pots and pans. But none of that gets you to heaven. And that's what Jesus was talking about. Those things don't get you closer to God and don't get you to heaven. So God calls us then to just have God in our hearts and not to be worried about the little things so much that we have, that we see around us. You know, there was disputes back in Jesus' time. There are disputes today. Do you believe that churches have disputes sometimes? Do you believe that we have lots of traditions and we have lots of rules and lots of order, or like to have lots of rules and order in our church? Do you think that's true from what you've witnessed? Yeah, we want things to run well. We want things to do well for us. And so we do have those things. And I remember that it's not always peaceful when we make a change. You ever notice that? Oh, yeah. But that is where we are today. What happens when we make a change? Now, I grew up in a time when this was the hymn book. It's called the Red Book. Anybody, you guys remember this? I grew up with this book. I learned liturgy from this book. I learned the hymn tunes from this book. This book was very special. But along came the 1970s, and we needed a change. We went to the Green Book. Anybody remember this? Well, there was lots of struggle about why we went to this daggone Green Book. And people got in the corner. I mean, this side would say, oh, we don't like this, and this side would say, well, we don't like this, and this side, since there's so few of you, would say, well, we like it. But there were different hymn tunes in it. There were different words in it. What in the heck is this church trying to do to us? And besides that, now at the time in the 70s, we were still having a little struggle with the Missouri Synod. The Missouri Synod helped write this. This can't be that good. You know, it's not done by us Lutherans, real Lutherans. It's in the time LCA, ALC, right? And maybe some others as well. But by God, we had a hard time seeing. And now, of course, we use the Cranberry Book. Notice it's not red, it's cranberry. That's what they call it anyway. And in this, it's been a great hymn as far as I'm concerned, but there are 10 communion liturgies in this thing. Which one do you use? Well, you can use whatever you want, of course. But it is change. And change is hard to take sometimes, isn't it? It was hard to take when Jesus told those Pharisees, what you're telling us to do about all this purity stuff isn't going to get you closer to heaven. When we argue about hymn books and hymn tunes, it's not going to get us any closer to heaven. And yet, we still struggle with that, the things that we want to see done in a certain way. I was pastor of a church where we were building a new building, and you know what the hardest part we had was? Figuring out what color the carpet was going to be. This half wanted it to be blue, and this half, including you guys, wanted it to be green. And there was actually, this guy, we're leaving the church if you're going to make it right. It can't be that color. We do have struggles. We do fight amongst each other, and those things don't matter. As Jesus would say, they don't matter about getting to heaven. They're just ourselves. Because God is more concerned about what's in our hearts, who we really are inside. On the inside and the outside. Ceremonies and traditions and the color of hymn books and carpets, they don't really mean anything. What's here for you? Because God calls us to do the right thing. My grandson played baseball when he was learning to play baseball. He lived in Hawaii. And he was 7 or 8 years old, and they were just learning the fundamentals of the game, how to catch ground balls, how to throw, how to hit. And he was in the league called the Pono League. Now, I didn't think anything about that because Pono is a Hawaiian word, and I didn't know what it meant. But kids how to do the fundamentals of the game. But I began to see other teammates, older kids, come and help the kids as well. You see, pono is a Hawaiian word that means do the right thing. And so these other younger boys were helping, the older boys were helping the younger boys learn the fundamentals out of respect for the name of their league. The coaches preached to them about pono. And I don't know whether many of you follow Little League baseball or not, but Hawaii just won the World Series. And I saw the coaches of Hawaii sharing pono with their players. These men were men of God. They loved their kids, they loved God. And they showed, no matter what happened, how much they loved the kid first, and then helped them any way they could with the fundamentals of a baseball. So God is concerned about what's in here. He wants us to do the right thing. And if you don't remember anything else, remember the word pono. Do the right thing. When our hearts are in the right place, when we do the right thing, God sees us, and we, by His grace, are saved. He loves us so much. And I just think that He smiles a bit as He sees our hearts open up to others in pono, in doing the right thing. Would you pray with me, please? Gracious God, thank you for the blessing that you give each and every one of us. Close our hearts, gracious God, to those things that keep us away from you, to anger and worry and fear. But open our hearts, gracious God, to do the right thing. Help us, gracious God, to see you as our vision and to keep our hearts always open to you. We pray now your blessing on us in Jesus' name. Amen.